If you head over to YouTube, you'll see that Lumix has a live stream scheduled for October 16th. That's coming up in 2 days as of when I'm recording this. And it says it's going to be at 7 a.m., which would be here in Arizona Mountain Time. But if you go over to YouTube, you can see all this for yourself. And there's a little teaser trailer posted. And it looks like this announcement will have to do with the Lumix Lab and Lumix Flow apps. Now, I've only briefly used either of these apps. I'm very familiar with the old Lumix Sync app, which is also on the App Store. And it seems like it's kind of fracturing, like which app am I using with which camera? Hopefully all of that gets resolved. Now, I think there is firmware coming for the S5 Mark II and the GH7 to bring full compatibility to the Lumix Lab app and probably the Flow app as well. Now, I don't really want to talk about that because apps don't get me all that excited. I think what is still missing from the Lumix full frame lineup is the S1H Mark II. I don't think it's going to be this announcement. I think we would have heard a little bit more murmurings or rumors or something would be there if that truly were what this was about. But you can even see the first comment here in the chat. Just give us the ultimate S1H Mark II. Now, I'm not traveling Puma. That's not a secret burner account I have or anything, but it's just out there in the zeitgeist. If you look at comments on forums, if you look on Reddit, if you look in the YouTube comments, you will see plenty of people asking for the S1H Mark II. And yet, time and time again, someone will chime in right after that Lumix isn't going to do an S1H Mark II. It's just the S1 Mark II and the S1R Mark II. That's it. The 1 Mark II and the R Mark II. There's no H. Don't even ask for it. Don't even hope for it. And this would be such an unfortunate misstep if we never get an S1H Mark II. The S1H is known. It's beloved. Everyone has been clamoring for an S1H Mark II, something that is bulletproof. It's rock solid. It's not going to overheat. It's going to give you all those amazing video features and still be what I would hope as a hybrid. Some people want a box cinema style camera for the S1H Mark II, and that would be fine as a variant. But I think the beauty of these cameras is that they are hybrids. I recently used the Canon C80 and I was severely disappointed in that it could only do video. A lot of people will say, well, that's, buy a photography camera then. Why are you getting a C80, the cinema line from Canon? And it's the form factor. That shape, that body style lends itself perfectly to taking a photo and being able to shoot video all in one. And the S1H Mark II would be, hopefully, I would think, what I would want, which is that elevated step up full frame version of what Lumix already did with the GH7. I've recently been talking about the GH7 and why I bought another one, because it's so powerful, because it has those unique video hybrid features that only exist on the GH7. Things like time code over the flash sync port, hardwired in. Yes, they're implementing time code over Bluetooth on some of the new Lumix full frame cameras, but there's an elegance, I think, to a wired solution for time code, especially when it comes to compatibility. And if not all the time code devices are supported, whether you have Tentacle or Atomos or some other time code solution, it's really irritating if it doesn't work with Bluetooth, if it's not compatible. I use the Tentacle sync devices, and it's very easy to run a wire to a camera, either the audio port or the dedicated timecode port that's there on the GH7, and have multiple cameras perfectly in sync at the click of a button. If you're not running timecode, especially for multicam stuff, if you have multiple clips, multiple days, multiple cameras, you really need to invest in a proper timecode solution. And Tentacle Sync is the one that I like, but there's other ones out there as well. But you want them to all be compatible. You don't want to have to buy a camera and that requires a certain specific timecode device that you may or may not already have. And then all of a sudden you're on a shoot with somebody else who's running a different timecode setup. The more compatibility, the better. We've seen this over the years with memory cards. SD cards became the quintessential standard until now. We have, some of the newer Express Type A, Express Type B, that kind of thing. But SD cards are still in use to this day because they became such a compatible standard that basically all the cameras were using compared to the random, CFast 1.0 or CFast 2.0, or now we're doing CF Express Type A, but we're doing Type B over here. It's kind of irritating, kind of frustrating. So the more compatibility we have, the better. And I think that's true for timecode as well as any other part of these cameras. When people talk about what camera they're going to buy, the biggest factor is what mount does it have? What lens mount does it have? Because they're not compatible with one another. And even when you're looking at full frame versus micro four thirds or APS-C, or now things are moving to medium format as well, it's one of the biggest sticking points for any newbie, anyone trying to figure out, what do I buy? Wait, what do you mean I can't buy that lens for my camera? Why can't I? Oh, well, the lens mount. Oh, what do you mean that lens won't cover the sensor on this camera? Well, you have to understand a sensor size. And we get it, you know, I get it. It's the thing you learn and you kind of latch onto. But for other people out there, compatibility is such a strange thing because you really have to explain the nuance of what works with what and why. And at the end of the day, a lot of it doesn't necessarily make sense because most of these lenses nowadays are optically all kind of sharing similar designs. The only arbitrary difference is just which mount it comes in, which is kind of frustrating that certain lenses still aren't available across all the mounts, but other lenses have become, you know, more common and are everywhere. What have I seen more recently? Lumix announced the 24 to 60, and now I think Rokinon has a 24 to 60 for some of the other mounts. So it's just a funny thing that happens where we're like, why are we arbitrarily limiting all this? And yes, you want everyone in the same ecosystem. You know, if you buy the camera, you buy the lenses, and all of a sudden you're the company making all the money. But, you know, sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. I don't know. We'll have to see what comes October 16th, 2025 over on the Lumix channel. I wouldn't get your hopes up for an S1H Mark II or any big. There's been speculation that maybe it's a micro four thirds camera, maybe something like the LX100 Mark III, because the LX100 Mark II is now very popular on the used market. The prices have been going up. So that's something that it potentially could be. It always could be a camera. It could be a lens. But based on the teaser trailer they have here posted, I think it's going to be app-based. So temper your expectations, but still think in the back of your mind, be hopeful for an S1H Mark II. Every time they put an announcement out, I hope people like Traveling Puma show up to make a comment saying it should be the S1H Mark II. I think Panasonic and Lumix have gotten the memo. I think they know that we all want this camera, but maybe not. Maybe we need to just be a little bit louder. That could always be the case. Don't be too excited for this live stream. It is probably just an app announcement. Usually when it's a camera release, we get the silhouette of the camera body, you know, edged with this nice edge light, just a trail, a trickle, and usually a day or two, or maybe even 3 days in advance, someone will leak all the photos to some Chinese website and it'll all come out and we'll get the reveal. Some YouTuber will upload a video before embargo and, you know, people will see it there. None of that has happened, so it's very unlikely that this is a camera or a lens, because those announcements usually have a little bit more pomp, a little bit more circumstance, a little bit more extravagance compared to this one. But what's happening after this live stream is Lumix is also hosting a creator event in Los Angeles on the 22nd of October, I believe. So I don't think anything will come of that either. I plan to attend. I'm hoping that still works out with my schedule, but we'll see. I make no promises because it's just the way it goes with production, with filmmaking and content creation and photography. Sometimes, you know, plans change and you got to adjust at the last minute. And for all the planning and preparation that goes into something, it might all change the next day. And you probably already know that if you're living this lifestyle. It's just the way it goes. But as much as I can bake in my schedule, I like to attend things like that, especially for Lumix, just because I've been such a huge fan for so long. I think they make great cameras, and I want to see them make more great cameras like the S1H Mark II, or even a GH8, or sure, an LX100 Mark III. That would be great as well. An S9 Mark II, an S5 Mark III. These are all things I hope for in the future. And they do seem to be hitting quite a nice stride. There's been a lot of momentum and inertia around Lumix, I feel like lately. Obviously, you know, Sony and Canon and even Nikon have been making bigger waves as of recently with some of the new announcements. The Canon R50, you've got the Nikon, is it the ZR? I know that camera is maybe a little bit controversial and maybe we'll talk about it in another video. But for now, I'm just excited to keep an eye on Lumix, because I am hopeful, but it's such a weird time. You know, as we enter the Q4 holiday season, this is when the discounts roll out. This is when the deals, the promotions, the Black Fridays, the Cyber Mondays, holiday shopping strikes. So I don't know what always makes the most sense for companies as they roll out products. Obviously, Apple likes to do their September announcements for the iPhone, and I think they have another October announcement happening soon or in the near future. So they're releasing new stuff into Q4, which makes sense, holiday shopping, but they also have quite a library of stuff that they can put on sale and deeply discount. For Lumix, I don't know that they have quite that same luxury. Maybe they do. Maybe there's plenty of stuff. I mean, they just did it for, I think it was Prime Big Deal Days or whatever the Amazon recent sale was. And they had some discounts on the S5 Mark II, on the GH7, on the G9 Mark II, on the S9. Your kind of typical stuff that we've been seeing for years now on these cameras. The S5 Mark II, it's been around for a while. The S9 is a little bit newer, GH7 a little bit newer. But still, they're not brand new. Something like the S1 Mark II, the S1 IIe, the S1R Mark II, all much newer, much more exciting. And I would expect to see maybe Black Friday, Cyber Monday, buy the camera, get a lens sort of combos, maybe an extra promotional discount on top of that based on what they did last year. But I don't know. I have no way to judge exactly what they're going to do. Because, you know, the world is a shifting landscape. Inflation, prices all seem to be going up generally. So even that could have an impact on the used market. Something that used to cost $600 used maybe now costs $800 or $900 or even $1,000. It's just kind of the way it goes. Some stuff loses value and some stuff becomes more valuable. And you can't always plan it. You can't always predict it. But it just happens that way. And what I do and what I recommend everyone, what you should do, is buy what you need. Buy the tool for the job you have. Don't just buy as an investment of, well, once I have it, then I'll be able to do all this great stuff. No, buy it to solve a problem you have. Buy it to be an actual solution for whatever it is you're working on. I don't know. Maybe it's a wedding. Maybe it's a concert. Maybe it's a short film, documentary, whatever. A photo shoot you're doing and you need a particular lens because you can't do it with what you have currently. Go right ahead. Buy the equipment or rent it. Also a decent option. But keep an eye out for whatever those Black Friday deals are because they are coming. Sure enough, I don't know what they'll be, but they will be here, Cyber Monday and all of that. It's just the season that we're in. The end of the year discounts on stuff that maybe you had your eye on, but you didn't quite pull the trigger on just yet. And who knows, maybe if we're super lucky, it is some big announcement. But probably not. It's going to be an app update or a new feature in the app or something like that. Again, based on this trailer, it doesn't look like that big of an announcement. But who knows? Maybe I'll be really impressed, really surprised by whatever this ends up being. Although, you know, at the end of the day, I would just like for these apps to work as rock solid as I need them to. That's the hard truth of the apps is the moment they don't work or it's, 50-50 or, 75% reliability, it's basically 0% reliability. It's the same mentality I have towards the overheating fiascos that have plagued many cameras from many different companies over the years. The moment it overheats somewhat consistently, all of a sudden I might as well just think it just overheats all the time because I'm not going to use it if I can't trust it to perform 100% of the time. Even if it only performs 90% of the time, I don't want to have to worry about that 10% of the time. Same thing with the apps. The moment the Wi-Fi video drops out or it doesn't pair or it disconnects or there's some buggy problem, and I get it, it's challenging, it's difficult to develop apps for iPhone and Android and all the various models and SKUs, different products, whether it's Samsung phones or Google phones or the iPhone, 11 or 12 or 13 that people are still using in addition to the new iPhone Air and the 17. It's a lot of SKUs to manage. It's a lot of problems to solve. So I don't diminish the developers working on this stuff. It is challenging, but as someone who uses the technology, the devices, the apps, I need it to work reliably 100% of the time. Otherwise, I can't trust it at all, and I'm going to find a different solution. That's one of the best things I like about picking up a new piece of gear or equipment. I think of something like the Hollyland monitor that I use, and it has wireless video, and it works all the time. It just works. It connects seamlessly, intuitively, easily. I load up the app. It works there. It's bulletproof for my needs, the way I use it. And that's the joy that I get out of using a device that works as promised, as intended, versus something that you got to troubleshoot, you got to problem solve, you got to figure it out, you got to, tweak this, modify that. Okay, just know that, under these conditions it works, but under these conditions it doesn't. I don't want anything to do with that. I don't want it to overheat. I don't want it to disconnect. I don't want it to bug out. And that's unfortunately the problem with a lot of technology these days, that if it's not 100% reliable, I'm just not going to rely on it at all. And your mileage may vary. A lot of people out there are willing to work with the overheating or work with the little caveats and the gotchas. But for the most part, I don't want to touch this stuff. I want it to be bulletproof all the time, because on professional work, on jobs, that's what you need. You never want to be there troubleshooting with a client around, or when you're on set with other people, they're waiting on you and you're waiting on a piece of technology to work the way it ought to, and it just isn't in that moment, because it always breaks when you need it most. And I don't know if that's Murphy's Law or some other law out there, but when you need it to work, it doesn't. And so those are the things I just throw right in the scrap yard, in the trash. I don't want anything to do with you. You need to be as reliable as I am. If I'm showing up, if I'm working, if I'm doing the job, I expect my gear to do the same. So maybe this announcement will come with some of that, bulletproofing going on with these apps. I hope. Fingers crossed. I'll test them out and see what I find. But historically, I've never been all that happy with the app side of the equation for some of these devices, just because it never works as good as it ought to. And I know it could get there, but until it does, I'm not going to trust it. I'm not going to use it. So hopefully maybe that's what this is. And it will be something to be excited for. But right now, my expectations are very, very low.